What if the very first thing you do in the morning is quietly sabotaging your body's ability to burn fat? Millions of people wake up, walk straight to the kitchen, and pour a cup of coffee before doing anything else. It feels harmless. In fact, many people believe coffee itself helps burn fat. And in some ways, that's true. Caffeine can increase alertness, raise metabolism slightly, and stimulate fat breakdown. But here's what's really going on inside your body. If coffee is the first signal your metabolism receives in the morning, it can trigger a hormonal chain reaction that actually makes belly fat harder to burn, not easier. And the key hormone involved is cortisol, your body's primary stress and wake-up hormone. Your body already has a natural cortisol rhythm. It peaks in the early morning to wake you up, mobilize energy, and stabilize blood sugar after the overnight fast. Think of cortisol like your body's internal alarm clock and fuel manager. Now imagine pouring gasoline onto a fire that is already burning. When coffee hits an empty stomach first thing in the morning, caffeine can amplify that cortisol spike even further. For some people, this leads to unstable blood sugar, stronger cravings later in the day, and a metabolism that shifts towards storing fat, especially around the abdomen. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your metabolism like a factory that just opened for the day. The lights turn on slowly, workers arrive, machines warm up. But if you suddenly flood the system with caffeine before the factory is ready, alarms start ringing, production becomes chaotic, and energy management becomes inefficient. Your body reacts the same way. Instead of entering a smooth, fat-burning state, the body may respond with stress signals and blood sugar instability, the exact conditions that make stubborn belly fat difficult to lose. The good news is this: you don't need to give up coffee. In fact, coffee can absolutely support metabolism and fat burning when used strategically. But there are a few simple things you should do before your first cup that can completely change how your body responds to caffeine and dramatically improve fat burning, energy stability, and hormonal balance throughout the day. Today, we're going to break this down step by step using the physiology of metabolism so you understand exactly why timing matters. Because once you understand the sequence your body expects in the morning, small changes can produce surprisingly powerful results. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to do before coffee to help your body shift into a far more efficient fat-burning mode, especially for stubborn belly fat. When you wake up in the morning, your body has just completed one of the longest metabolic events of the day, the overnight fast. For 7 to 9 hours, your body has been regulating blood sugar, repairing tissues, balancing hormones, and slowly using stored energy to keep you alive while you sleep. And during that entire time, something very important happens. Your body loses water. You lose water through breathing, through skin evaporation, and through normal metabolic processes. By the time you wake up, most people are already in a mild state of dehydration. Now, here's what's really going on inside your body. Every metabolic reaction, fat burning, glucose control, detoxification, hormone signaling, depends on water at the cellular level. Your blood plasma, your lymphatic system, and your cellular energy systems all require adequate hydration to function efficiently. But if the very first thing that enters your system is coffee, you're introducing caffeine into a body that hasn't yet restored its fluid balance. Caffeine is a stimulant. It activates the nervous system and can temporarily increase stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Now imagine your metabolism like a city early in the morning. The roads are just starting to open. Traffic lights are turning on. Energy systems are slowly powering up. Water is like the transport system of that city. It moves nutrients, hormones, oxygen, and metabolic signals where they need to go. But if the roads are still dry and congested, and suddenly a surge of stimulants arrives, the system becomes inefficient. Your metabolism behaves the same way. When you hydrate first, something powerful happens. Water helps restore blood volume, improves circulation, and supports the liver, one of the most important organs involved in fat metabolism. Remember, your liver is responsible for managing glycogen storage, blood sugar stability, and the transition between carbohydrate burning and fat burning. During the night, your liver has been slowly releasing glucose into the bloodstream to keep your brain functioning. But in the morning, Your body must decide what fuel source it will prioritize next. This is where hydration plays a surprising role. Research in metabolic physiology shows that proper hydration improves lipolysis, the process where stored fat is broken down into fatty acids to be used as energy. In simple terms, water helps your body unlock stored fat more efficiently. And there's another important layer here. When you drink a glass or two of water in the morning, you also support the kidneys and adrenal system. This helps regulate the stress response so that when caffeine does arrive later, your body handles it much more smoothly. Think of hydration as preparing the metabolic runway before the plane takes off. Without it, your system is starting the day under stress. With it, your metabolism becomes far more stable. A very simple protocol works well for most people. Within the first 5 minutes of waking up, drink 400 to 600 milliliters of water. Room temperature or slightly warm works best because it is absorbed quickly. Some people also add a small pinch of mineral salt or a squeeze of lemon, which can support electrolyte balance and digestion. Then wait about 10 to 15 minutes before having coffee. That small window gives your body time to rehydrate cells, stabilize circulation, and activate the liver's metabolic processes. This is a small habit, but metabolically, it creates a much better environment for fat burning. And here's the key point I want you to remember. Coffee itself isn't the problem. The problem is coffee before hydration. Fix that sequence, and your metabolism immediately starts the day in a more balanced state. If this insight is helpful so far, consider subscribing to the channel. I share practical, science-based strategies like this every day to help you optimize your metabolism, energy, and long-term health naturally. Now that hydration has prepared your metabolism, we need to talk about the second factor that determines whether your body burns fat or stores it. When we talk about stubborn belly fat, most people immediately think about calories, carbohydrates, or exercise. But one of the most powerful fat storage signals in the body actually comes from a hormonal interaction that happens quietly every morning, the relationship between cortisol and insulin. And if you understand how these two hormones work together, you can dramatically change how your body burns fat throughout the day. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Cortisol is often called the stress hormone, but that label is incomplete. Cortisol is actually a metabolic regulator. Its job is to wake you up, mobilize energy, and make sure your brain has enough glucose to function. This is why cortisol naturally rises in the early morning hours. It's called the cortisol awakening response, a built-in biological system designed to prepare your body for activity. Think of cortisol like the morning manager of your metabolism. Its job is to unlock stored fuel so your body has energy after the overnight fast. But here's where the problem can begin. When caffeine enters the system too early, especially on an empty stomach, it can amplify that cortisol signal even further. Now imagine this happening step by step. Cortisol rises. The liver receives a signal to release glucose into the bloodstream. Blood sugar rises, and the body responds by releasing insulin, the hormone responsible for moving glucose into cells. Now remember a critical rule of metabolism. When insulin rises, fat burning slows down. Your body temporarily shifts from burning fat to managing blood sugar. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your metabolism as a hybrid engine that can run on two fuel sources, glucose or fat. When insulin is elevated, the engine prioritizes glucose. When insulin is low and stable, the engine can switch to fat burning much more efficiently. If your morning routine repeatedly triggers high cortisol followed by insulin spikes, your metabolism becomes locked in glucose management mode, not fat-burning mode. Over time, this hormonal pattern can contribute to something we often see in metabolic health clinics: increased abdominal fat storage. The reason belly fat is particularly sensitive to this process is because abdominal fat cells have a higher density of cortisol receptors. In other words, belly fat is extremely responsive to stress hormones. Now here's the encouraging part. Small adjustments to your morning routine can help stabilize this entire hormonal cascade. One simple strategy is delaying coffee slightly after waking. Instead of drinking coffee immediately, give your body about 45 to 60 minutes to move through its natural cortisol peak. During that window, Hydration and light activity help regulate blood sugar naturally, allowing cortisol to do its job without excessive stimulation. Then, when caffeine arrives later, it supports alertness without pushing cortisol into an exaggerated spike. Another helpful tool is protein signaling early in the morning. You don't necessarily need a full breakfast if you're practicing intermittent fasting, but even a small amount of protein later in the morning can stabilize insulin and reduce cravings throughout the day. Protein stimulates hormones like GLP-1 and peptide YY, which help regulate appetite and metabolic balance. This is one reason high-protein breakfasts have been shown in metabolic research to reduce late-day snacking and caloric intake. But the biggest takeaway is this: your morning hormones are already carefully orchestrated by your body. When we stack stimulants on top of that system too early, we create unnecessary metabolic stress. When we respect the natural hormonal rhythm instead, fat burning becomes far more efficient. And if this explanation is helping you understand your metabolism more clearly, consider subscribing to the channel. I share practical strategies like this every day to help you improve energy, metabolism, and long-term health naturally. Now that we've stabilized hydration and hormones, there's one more step that can dramatically increase fat burning before your first cup of coffee. And surprisingly, it has nothing to do with food or caffeine. It has to do with movement, and how even a few minutes of activity can activate powerful fat-burning enzymes inside your muscles. When most people think about fat burning, they imagine intense workouts, sweating in the gym, or long sessions of cardio. But one of the most powerful metabolic switches in the body can be activated with something far simpler: gentle morning movement before your first cup of coffee. And the reason this works has everything to do with how your muscles communicate with your metabolism. Here's what's really going on inside your body. After a full night of sleep, your body has been in a fasted state for several hours. During this time, insulin levels are naturally lower, which creates a metabolic environment where the body is more capable of using stored fat for fuel. This is one of the reasons morning movement can be so powerful. Your muscles become extremely sensitive to energy signals during this period. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your muscles like sponges for energy. When they're inactive for long periods, they absorb fuel slowly. But the moment you start moving, even gently, those sponges open up and begin pulling energy from the bloodstream and from stored fuel. This process activates enzymes involved in fat oxidation, the biochemical pathway that allows your body to convert stored fat into usable energy. Even light movement can trigger this response. Research in metabolic physiology shows that short bouts of low-intensity activity in a fasted state can increase AMPK activation, a cellular energy sensor that encourages the body to burn fat rather than store it. AMPK acts like a metabolic switch. When it turns on, your body becomes more efficient at mobilizing fatty acids from fat tissue and sending them to the muscles to be used as fuel. Now here's where timing becomes important. If caffeine enters the system before your muscles start using energy, the body may prioritize stress signaling rather than fat metabolism. But when you move first, even briefly, you tell the body something very different. You send a message that says, "We need energy now. Let's start using stored fuel." That's why even 5 to 10 minutes of movement can make a meaningful difference. This doesn't mean a full workout is required. In fact, some of the most effective morning movements are incredibly simple. A 10-minute walk outside, especially in natural light, helps activate circulation and supports circadian rhythm regulation. Gentle mobility exercises can stimulate muscles and joints that have been inactive during sleep. Even a short routine of bodyweight movements, such as squats, push-ups against a wall, or light stretching, can activate muscle fibers and begin pulling fatty acids into muscle cells. Another overlooked benefit of morning movement is its effect on insulin sensitivity. When muscles contract, they can absorb glucose from the bloodstream without needing large amounts of insulin. This keeps blood sugar more stable and prevents the insulin spikes that slow fat burning. In other words, your muscles become a natural metabolic buffer. The combination of hydration, hormonal balance, and early movement creates an ideal metabolic environment where your body is prepared to use stored fat efficiently. And once you finally drink your coffee, caffeine can then enhance focus and metabolic activity rather than disrupting your hormonal rhythm. So remember this simple sequence. Hydrate first. Allow your hormones to stabilize. Move your body briefly. Then enjoy your coffee. If this insight is helping you rethink your morning routine, consider subscribing to the channel. I share daily strategies designed to help you improve metabolism, energy, and long-term health naturally.